2023. As an industrial statistician, he works closely with engineers and scientists to help them make sense of data. He lives in Rhode Island with his wife and daughter.
Okay, hello everyone. Excuse me. So I started practicing way back in the late 80s, 1980s, and the reason why I started practicing was I was a single parent, had 3 teenage kids. And I had a real stressful job. So I came to the Zen Center to relieve some of that stress. And the first time I went to a friend of mine who introduced me to, actually my sister introduced me to this Zen Center in Manhattan. And it was in a loft. So we went to the loft and I sat with them. And afterwards, I remember coming out there feeling so light and easy. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. I'm going to come back, you know. So I came back, but they weren't there anymore. So then I looked into the Village Voice at that time, and I found the Zen Center on Park Avenue, 31st Street. And that was a mixture of Korean people, they practiced there, and the gringos. So so I used to go there early in the morning because I worked, you know, I couldn't. But I would get there at like, I don't know, 5:30, 6 in the morning, park my car outside. I had to move it by 7, and I would do the bows and some sitting. And so I was raised strict Catholic. So 8 years in Catholic school, I had a lot of guilt. So, you know, that bowing was really hard, you know, for me. It really, you know, I was like, wow. So I would leave there at 7. I would shoot across Manhattan to the Catholic church and go to church. I was like, wow, too. And then I felt better after going to church, you know. And then I came after prayer. I came here for a retreat, and after the retreat, it was either a retreat or a weekend, something happening, and we all broke up into. They had us break up into small groups, and in my group was a Chinese monk who wasn't part of our school, but he was practiced. I don't think, no, he wasn't. And he did culture. And so we broke up into these little groups, and I was assigned to the group with the Chinese monk and Dae Kwang. So, you know, everybody was, you know, asking questions. So the Chinese monk said to Dae Kwang, if something like, if we're practicing Zen and there's nothing is nothing and it's all emptiness, why do you have the Buddha here? And Dae Kwang said, people need toys. And I went, poof, you know, oh man, it's not really a God, you know, it's like, oh, so I'm not bowing to a pagan thing, but I was said this, then it was explained to me that this represents my inner self, my Buddha nature. So when I'm bowing to the Buddha, I'm bowing to myself, to my true self. So that took care of that. And, and then, you know, I started practicing more. I retired and, you know, jumped right into it. And then, you know, there was the Kong out practice. So first time I went for the Kongan practice, I said to myself before I went in the interview room, I said, oh, I don't think this is such a great idea today, because I got these three kids that are like driving me crazy. I gotta, just retired from the job, worried about the money thing, and, other things, family stuff, it was like, my mind was like stacked and stuff. But I went into the interview room, and to my surprise, I did well. And I was like, wow, look at that, And then the next time I came for the interviews, the Zen Master gave me the same koans and didn't do so well. He said, I thought so. So, what was the difference between the first time and the second time? First time, yeah, I had all these problems, but I wasn't attached to them. So, don't know mine appeared. Second time around, I was attached to them. It was like a soup in my head. I was feeling all this stuff. So, don't know mine didn't appear. So, I figured that out. And then I used to, in my mind, I said, the Zen practice is like popcorn. It's like popcorn practice, It's like, you do a certain thing, boom, pop, ooh, pop, 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 it's like cool. So I kind of, laughed at that, but it was kind of funny, every time something happened, I went, ooh. Like, for instance, I had to give my first Dharma talk, and Ken Cassell was the Jita then, and back then in the 80s and 90s, kids had toys, so it wasn't, you pushed most of the time, you had, you didn't push a button and they said something. It was a string, and you let it go and it down, and you pull the string again. Anyway, so I go to give this Dharma talk, and I'm walking through the East Village on the way to the Dharma talk, which I thought I had a good talk. And as I'm walking down the street, I come to this stoop where there's several young adults in their early 20s, I guess, and they have this dog, a nice sized puppy. It was obviously a puppy, and I'm watching them as I'm walking towards them, and they're playing with the puppy, and the puppy looks so happy, but he wasn't happy about the collar he had on, and he's trying to wiggle out, and he's doing everything to get out of the collar, and finally he gets out, and he runs, and they all get upset, and they run after the dog before he runs in the street, and they grab him, they bring him back, and I'm watching all of this carefully, and they put the collar back on the puppy. But they didn't adjust it, make it tighter. And there was a pop, and I said, do I do that? Do I do that? Do I just keep repeating and repeating? So I said, oh, here's a good Dharma talk. So that was part of the Dharma talk. So I liked it so much that the next time I was time for to do the Dharma talk, I repeated it. I included it. Then, the next time was also Ken Cassell. He says to me, are you going to give that Dharma talk about the dog and the pup? And I said, oh, well, I don't know. He went, shh, shh, like pulling the string, So I moved on. Anyway. And, let me see, so then, one time I heard about this backpacking trip in the Northern Cascades in Washington State. So, Dae Kwang was the leader of everything, and it was a week-long, I think a week or 10-day long retreat. So, I had the guy that was running the food and everything and paraphernalia. He asked me if I never went backpacking before, but I said, "Oh, this, right, here's my opportunity to do it." So then he asked me, "Do you have a backpack?" I said, "No, I'm going to buy one." "Do you have hiking shoes?" I said, "No, I'm going to buy it." "Do you have this, that?" I said, "I'm going to buy it." "Don't buy it, don't buy it. When you get here, my wife has a backpack. I go backpacking all the time. You can borrow hers." So I said, no, I'll buy it. No, don't do that. Don't worry about it. So I said, okay. So I flew to Washington, Seattle, and we met at his house. Now you gotta imagine, my luck is not so good, So he says, "Oh, yeah, I got my wife's stuff in the garage." Seattle, it's humid, and wet. So we got the stuff out of the garage, and it was all moldy and smelled really bad. So what could I do? Here I am. And so we scrubbed them all up and everything. So then you have a little bowl with numbers in it. Everybody got a number. You pick the number, and that's you carry the food for that day. So of course I got like number 8. The last day, so that means I had to carry food, throughout the whole 8 days. And I think the second day we drove up to the mountains, and second day in, if you're backpacking, there's like 2 straps that help you adjust the weight. Pop! It breaks. So now the whole backpack shifts. Oh no! So everybody's trying to help me, bobby pins, safety pins. So finally, this guy says, "Oh, pop, just tie it." Okay. So during that time in the woods, I was like fresh meat for the mosquitoes. They attacked me from every angle. I looked like I had the measles after like 6 days. Like boom, spit all over. Like I got so many bites, and I had all kind of stuff, but nothing. I had so many bites, man, that I gave up. I said, I have fun, just let them eat, and it's like so fed up. And one day, I'm resting in the woods, just enjoying the woods, and I'm sitting on a log and meditating, and along comes a mosquito, and it lands on my hand. And instead of swatting it away, I had already given up, so I just let them feed. And I'm sitting there watching this little thing go into my hand, and it's like feeding away. And as I'm watching it, a bee, which appeared to be a bee, swooped down, grabbed the mosquito, and flew off. Pop. Another popcorn went off. Like, wow, if I didn't give up, I never would have saw it. Never would have seen it. And I thought, how much don't I see? Next year thing. Oh, and then I went to Whole World's a Single Flower to China. And that's where I met José. And so we're riding around, after the flight, after the train trip, we're at the 6 Patriarchs Temple, and on the bus trips, like the monks and nuns would sit in the front of the bus, and everybody all the way back would sit in the back. And somebody started telling jokes, and we were really laughing hard. It was like, the monks were all looking back, what's going on back there, you know? And we were laughing and laughing and laughing. And then, pop, another popcorn. I said, oh, there's such a thing as laughing like that. Oh, it's just laugh. So, I'm going to tell you a joke so you can laugh. So, these 3 women die and go to heaven, and they get to heaven, and St. Peter says, oh, you guys have been good, you're ready, go right in. He says, but just one thing, God really likes ducks, there's a lot of ducks, so don't step on a duck, you'll be in trouble. So, okay. So they're in there a day and a half, boom, first woman steps on a duck. And God appears, poof, for stepping on the duck, you have to spend eternity with this man. And he was ugly, you know, he was really ugly. So, okay, poof, we're gone. So then the other 2 women are like really careful, so I'm not stepping on a duck. Sure enough, a week later, steps on a duck. God appears, poof, with a really ugly guy, warts and like really ugly. And he says, you 2 could have to spend eternity together. Poof. And then the 3rd woman is now, of course, really scared and not staying away from the ducks. But sure enough, after a couple of weeks, she steps on a duck. God appears, but this time, God appears with a really handsome guy, you know? The guy's a 6-pack, he's really great shape, really muscular, blue-eyed, blonde hair, whatever. And a full head of hair, you know? He was dancing, you know? And God said, for stepping on the duck, you 2 would have to spend eternity together. So she turns to the guy and says, man, what did I do to deserve you? And he says, I don't know about you, but I stepped on a duck. Laughing and laughing. So, anyway. So, why do we practice? Why put all this effort into our practice? It's all about Dharma. Dharma. So much appears when we practice that Dharma mind. When we keep that Dharma mind right here, right now in our lives. Dharma. And what appears, poof. But even though even though you know, practice and attain is don't know mind, and you practice for years, and it comes and it goes. And you know, on my way here, I had, you know, last week I said something to somebody I know in confidence, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, I get this, while I'm driving, I see this text, but I couldn't stop and get it, you know, so it was from a friend of that other, a mutual friend, and I said, hey, what's going on? I haven't spoken to him in a year. What the hell? And I said, right away, brain goes, that guy told him what I told him in confidence. And I said, ooh. And I get a telephone call from another friend, and that's a friend of this guy's, it's a friend of that guy's, and I go, they all got together. And I told that guy not to tell it. Oh my God, man. Then I started getting a little bit pissed off, you know, and then I checked myself, and I went, okay, I'm just going to put it this doesnt, what they teach us, whether, okay, right here, right here. And so, you know, what is that? Doesnt place, and how do you put it there? You know, that's a good question. You know, that one day, but I don't know. You take the breath, you put whatever you're worried about, push it down here, and that's the spot where it'll calm down. So if it's here, it's not here. It's here, and then just let it sit. But no, I was still a little upset. So I got off to the next rest stop, and I looked at the phone, and I looked at the text, and it said, "Happy birthday." So, you know, it's life. You know, but if you're in it, and you're aware you're in it, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, so what do we do with it, you know? Now that we got it, we understand it, what do we do with it? Am I talking too much? Am I talking too much?
That's fair.
Am I talking too much? Okay, that's, so what do I do with it? Compassion. Share. Make other people happy. See what they need. How can I help you? Really helping out. You know, the Zen Center, I'll tell you quick. The Zen Center during COVID, you know, it was, how can I help you? But everybody's locked up and everything. So we decided to order a whole bunch of goodies, and we put them in boxes and took them to the fire and the police and the nurses at the hospital. And so that's what we did with our practice. We help. How can I help you? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, full disclosure is that China trip. And notice how he says godfather of our daughter. So in Buddhist tradition, kids have a 100-day ceremony, 100 days after they're born. So we have one of those in New York. He was a Buddhist godfather. So we call him padrino, which means godfather in Spanish, which is pretty handy when it comes to Rhode Island. Those of you who understand. But it's very interesting, this popcorn, things that appear. And how we make stuff and how, you know, all the stuff that we create in our minds. That story about the birthday is very interesting. I can relate sometimes, you know, you don't know the background and you think that it's that, you know, and then you get all wrapped up and your energy goes up. You get upset, you know, I won't be able to trust that person again. I told him, you know, this was confidential. But then, oh, happy birthday. It's interesting. Yeah, so this life, the Buddha said, you know, there are three characteristics, the three marks of existence, the three characteristics of existence. Yeah? Impermanent, imperfect, and impersonal. Impermanent, imperfect, and impersonal. Yeah? Most of us understand the impermanent part. Yeah, everything changes. We get that. We see all diseases. Yeah, that's stuff. But disappears right away. It's an intellectual thing. But we really don't understand it at the God level. It takes a lifetime for that. Yeah. And that's because it connects with that imperfect part of the dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness. Nothing is quite perfect. And you can look at the weather. Yeah? Sometimes it's nice, sometimes it's not. It's not quite perfect. Maybe the temperature's okay, but it's a little humid, maybe it's too windy. Yeah. It's going to rain for about 3 or 4 days. Yeah. If you have a garden, grass, and all that, you're happy. If you have plans going on a hiking trip, it's not that great. But rain is just rain. But that imperfection gets in the way, and we make stuff. We make stuff all the time. Yeah. All the time. And something as simple as the rain creates some suffering. Yeah. And that's what the Buddha was talking about. Our likes and dislikes create suffering. This is the latest issue of Primary Point. There's an interview that Zen Master Dae gave in 1991 at a radio station. And he recited a poem that says, "Rain is falling steadily. Is it good or bad? Clouds are floating in the empty sky, and the sun is shining brightly on the earth. Is it bad or good? The rain has made the trees lush and green. Is it right or wrong?" Yeah. And that appears a lot in the Zen literature. One of my favorite koans in the Gaelic gate is Nanchuan talking to Zen Master Giorgio. Yeah. That's the Giorgio wrote, "Does a dog have Buddha nature?" Yeah. And at the end, Nanchuan tells Giorgio, "Why do you make right or wrong?" And at that moment, popcorn for Giorgio. Yeah. I like that. See how I'm used. And you notice him saying, we plagiarize each other. Because we're always trying to explain stuff that is easy, but at the same time it's hard to grasp. So anytime you get something like that, it's pretty good. So that was a popcorn moment for Giorgio. Yeah. Because we're always making right or wrong, right or wrong. Yeah. The rain made the tree lush and green, yes, but at some point it wasn't that great. So that's the imperfect part. That's the imperfect part. And then there's the part about being impersonal. We talk about non-self or emptiness. It's a little more heavy duty. I try to call it impersonal. Which means that things are not as they seem. Like, well, they're sharing my secret now. This is birthday. So, that part is there. So when we practice, he mentioned we go back to our breath. Breathe in, down to below our belly button. And most of the spiritual traditions use the breath. And the breath is wonderful. You always heard me talk about the breath being something that's magic, in a way. But in the breath, all those three marks of existence are there for you to experience. So if you come, either for a 25-minute sitting or a long retreat, then you can experience that. It's very easy when you sit, and you're in the groove, to experience that the breath is impermanent. In and out, changes. Yeah. But you get to experience that. That's the meaning of that. Okay? And it's imperfect. Yeah? It's short, it's long. In one of the sutras, when the Buddha is talking about the 4 foundations of mindfulness, he talks about that. Breathing in long, I know that I'm breathing in long. Breathing out long, I know that I'm breathing out long. Breathing in short, I know that I'm breathing in short. Breathing out short, I know that I'm breathing out short. That's that impermanence and that's that imperfection. Yeah. Sometimes it's perfect, according to whatever criteria you have that day, that week. And the same criteria the next week will make that breath not quite it. And that it depends on causes and conditions and depends on how we are at a particular moment. Again, the reason we have these retreats and all these things is these environments we can experience that, because otherwise it gets too intellectual. We understand it, but not quite. But if you see it retreat, then you get to see it. It may not be nice or pleasant, but you get to experience that. Yeah? And then there's the impersonal part. That is hard. You know, when we talk about emptiness and all that, it's like, huh? Yeah. But which is the killer of our breath. Yeah? Right now, take a deep breath. Do it. Breathe out. Yeah? Who's breathing? You're going to tell me, I'm breathing, I just did that. Yeah? But in 2 minutes, you don't even know that you're breathing. So who's breathing? Yeah? When we're talking, I keep breathing, but I'm not putting my attention in the breath. That's important. Who's breathing? That's then for you. Who's breathing? At some points during the day, maybe 99% of the time during the day, unless you have some practice, then who's breathing? It's happening, and you're lucky it's happening. Otherwise, you'll be dead. I always tell people, if we were in control of our breath, most of us would be dead. Seriously, because there will be something we don't like. You know, impermanent, imperfect peace. So that, again, is practice gives you an opportunity to see that. And it's impersonal. There's a piece there that we don't know what it is. You know, you can call it whatever you want to call it. We just hit the floor. But at that moment, yeah, we cut through that. Who's breathing, who's not breathing, and impersonal is just that. Which again, I like that metaphor that you use about the laughter, because the laughter is the same thing. When you're laughing hard, there's nothing else, just laughter. You're not even thinking about the joke anymore, you know? You may think about it later because you want to retell it to someone else. You know, oh, that's a great joke. Yeah. But at that moment, it's just the laughter. And that's, again, we call it by many names, primary form, it's just laughter. And at that moment, it's a good or bad moment, it's good because we're feeling great. It's just laughter. So that's our practice. So again, the breath allows you to see those 3 things: the imperfection, the impermanence, the imperfection, and the impersonal part. Any questions? Yes? No.
So, okay, so sometimes, you know, you have an idea and you're wrong, you know, they're not telling your secret. But sometimes you're right, your intuition is correct. So what then? What if they are telling your secret?
Yeah, so they're right or wrong. Yeah. Sometimes you're wrong, but sometimes you're right. It depends on the situation, the conditions of the relationship you have to all that, and also depends on how much you trust yourself. You know, the question about being right, being wrong. And there are situations that you may know that, you know, this is the right answer. Yeah. And it's almost impossible to give you an answer that say, okay, this is what you got to do in this, because we don't know what the situation is. But if you have some type of center, again, we're using this same words, then you may be able to see some of the conditions that you may be able to perceive. Yes, I can trust myself and I can say this. Some other times you may perceive that the situation, no. If I say this, then it's going to create more problems than doing. So it is part of that. It's part of that. But important is to see, being able to not being swayed too much by the situation and being able to see what's in front of us, which is not easy, especially if there's some strong emotions that bring the energy up. Then it's better to do something. There's a little nice article here too by Zen Master Dae Kwang on anger, very short. Also like that. It's very nice. He talks about the 4 types of anger. So, sorry, we're going to have a definite answer for that, but trust your center and perceive the situation. Perceive the situation.
Michael, Zen Master Tan Gong, thank you for being here. 3 children, congratulations. I have the same number. Yes, they provide infinite frustration sometimes. At the same time, my youngest one happens to be being a great Kongan teacher. You know, he asked me all these questions that I'm sort of get stuck. And lately he's actually been going to a church, and I encourage him to, you know, do any type of spiritual practice and to explore himself. So that's good. And along the way, we do a lot of talking in the car. He's a captive audience just to figure out what's going on in his teenage mind. And we talked about understanding and intuitions and all that stuff. And one of the teachings that we hear from Master Sun Sang is, you know, understanding doesn't help you or can't help you. And in that particular moment, he asked me, saying, "Oh, you know, we do everything based on what we understand, what we know. And so why is that bad?" And so I got stuck in answering that question. Of course, then we want to answer something else, but maybe you can actually tell us what that means for us. You know, understanding doesn't help you. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, so Master Sun Sang used to say that a lot. Understanding will not help you. And he was pointing to that intellectual understanding that we have, especially in the West, especially if you have some type of education. Even if it's high school, there's a lot of understanding that happens. And that understanding is helpful, you know, depending on some profession. You know? If you understand math and you're a statistician, you want your accountant to do a good job. You know? If you write computer programs and things, you know, it's important to pay attention to semicolons and little missing letter here and there, because the whole thing won't work. Yeah? But in our everyday life, sometimes that understanding will not help us in the sense that we don't have the experience. You know? We're talking about the understanding of impermanence. Yeah, we understand that. We can see it. But at the God level, that takes a lifetime. Because we want things to stay the same. The things that we like, we want them to stay the same. And if they change a little bit, we don't like it. Right there, you know, even if we have an intellectual understanding that things are changing, they're just changing, but we don't like it. Or we want things we don't like right now, we want them to change. And they're not changing. And that's the suffering what Buddha was talking about. Nothing very esoteric. And you get that from experience. I mean, Michael's example was wonderful. You know, you confide something in you, and then you hear all these messages and calls, and you're thinking, you're creating this stuff. That's a proliferation. We create stuff in our mind just from that little seed. And it's something totally different. You know? So, this basic teachings of Buddhism, if we get to experience them, yeah, then we get to see why that understanding piece doesn't help us sometimes. You know? Like that. So, if you get to have some experiences with your children, and you as a parent, even necessarily as a parent, as a teacher, you know, it's the experiential part that you're teaching them baseball or something, and you tell them all the stuff about physics and the angle and stuff that it has to be in order to catch the ball, whatever. That doesn't happen. You would catch it or don't catch it. You join it, you know. Internally, maybe the neural networks are doing all that, but you have to experience that. Yeah, you have to experience that. So it's that part. You know? So it's not rejecting the understanding completely, but it's understanding the understanding is not the complete picture. From the Zen point of view, Zen is a very experiential thing, and most of you know that because you come here regularly. And get to experience some of that. Get to have some of those popcorn moments. It's not that often, but you do have those popcorn moments. Right? interesting. When you see that appear in your mind, interesting, then you say, oh, what is this? And what is this? What is this interesting? No questions? Yes, please.
Thank you both. So question is with this I don't know mind that we practice. How can we then adjust the metaphorical collar that we all carry around us, like Michael talked about with that puppy, right? So how does that help us kind of either tighten it up or loosen it so we don't kind of replicate things over again?
Yeah. So the metaphorical collar. Yeah, there's a story in Zen where the Zen Master was teaching the temple, and he realized that he didn't know much, so he locked himself in a room, just practicing. Had an attendant, and the attendant would bring him food and all that. So one time the attendant went to town and ran into a friend of that Zen Master. Oh, how is the Zen Master? How is he doing these days? Oh, he's practicing very hard. He would just practice. He locked himself in a room. He doesn't come out. He just practices. And this friend, it's not that good. You should tell your teacher that in the next life he should come back as a cow with no nostrils. As a cow with no nostrils. And of course the attendant got offended. How can you say that about my teacher? And he went back to the temple very upset. He didn't talk to the master so early. Oh, I saw your friend. Oh, how is it? And related the story. No, he insulted you. He said you have to be reborn as a cow with no nostril. The whole bag of popcorn, the machine broke. Zen Master opened the door and was like, whoa. Yeah. So that's the same metaphor as the collar. So if you have no nostrils, they cannot put the ring, the buffalo thing, to control you. So, yeah, so we have a lot of collars that we put on ourselves. Yeah. So first thing is to have some type of, I'm going to call it practice, but some type of thing that allows us to see that we have that. Sometimes we don't even know we have those collars, plural, yeah. Or the nostrils and the ring that pulls us. And something happens. We were talking about that driving is one of those experiences where you get to see each other's personality, including our own. Even if you come out of a retreat, you sat 90-day kill chair, and you're like, and someone cuts you off. Faster than the speed of light. Yes. You'll laugh. Maybe you have some experience beyond the understanding. And that's because we have all these things to build. These collars that also. So having some type of practice that allows us to see that, and then spending time paying attention to that on a retreat, for example, where you can see that, because you can see that in audience in the retreat. So I'm sitting in, his stomach is growling. It's like, why? You may get upset because it's supposed to be a Zen retreat or peaceful and all that. But you can see that. And because you're in this situation that is all under a controlled environment, then you can ask, what is this? Why is this happening? Then we may get to see the color, we may get to see the strings, and then eventually they lose their force. We get many images for that. We call that burning or karma, for example. So that's part of that. So that's using our practice for that. And sometimes you see it like that, and, but then, it's like so fixed, so many. And that's what we practice. Try for 10,000 years, non-stop. Yeah, non-stop. That's it. And then after that, you discover that you do it because you're there to help other people. There's another story here I want to share with you. It's very interesting. This is it's an article called Living in the Moment by Sharon Chua. Sharon Chua is the conductor of the Hong Kong Philharmonic. She's a very high-class musician, educated in Oxford and all that. And in this article, she's talking about when she started practicing Zen. And anybody here a musician or performer? I know this one. She talked about anxieties before performances, rehearsals, and all that. And how this practice has allowed me to see some of that. It's interesting to read. It's like, wow. And this is a person at that high level of her profession. But then for me, the part that was most striking, she said, once I realized this mistake in my years of questions and checking, the pressure of having to give a worthy performance disappeared all at once. Yeah. The pressure of having to give a worthy performance disappeared all at once. That's that. Color. Yeah. That's another popcorn moment. Because, you're the head of the orchestra. It's your responsibility. But she discovered there's a lot of I and me in that. And then she said, all that remained was to just do it. Just reflect what's in the score and present it as such. Just reflect what's in the score and present it as such. Yeah. In rehearsals, just to listen and guide and allow players to do their job. No judgment, no angst, no good or bad. Yeah? So that's Zen in practice, right there. In your condition, your situation, and all that. How you do it is up to you, but you have to have some type of practice. It doesn't have to be Zen. But that's what the practice brings to your life. First, getting rid of some color, having that popcorn moment, and then putting that into action. And putting that into action is seeing how you relate to other people. And I imagine that before that, she being a conductor, wanting to have a high-class performance. Being a player with those conditions was probably not fun. With a conductor like that. So that angst and anxiety in her projected in the players. If you're playing with her, you probably have to practice a lot at the conductor. But then she turned that into, no, I need to help them play their best. So that's simple, You hear that? Yeah, it's very simple. But then the next piece is to make it yours. Right? Passing from the understanding that we have right now, because it sounds nice and intellectual, it's okay, to make it yours. Okay? So thank you all so much for coming. May you all be happy. May you all be free from suffering. And that the wisdom resulting from your practice will allow you to see the whole human race as one body. And the whole world, including rain, snow, Republicans, Democrats, dogs, insects, China, buildings, cars, all of that. You'll be able to see that as just one single family, because we're all part of that family, words alone. Thank you.
Thank you for your wonderful talks, and thanks everyone for coming. Just a few announcements. We have a retreat coming up. It's called Art as Practice. And we welcome any kind of artist or craftsman to come and practice Zen through your creative expression. That's going to take place on May 17th. Summer and winter culture registration is open. For the summer Kyochet, it's only a 3-day minimum. You do need previous experience with retreats to sit, but it's, well, I haven't done it, so I can't really say what a wonderful experience it is, but I am planning on doing the summer one. It's at our monastery up on the hill. Please register. And also, following that, save the date for Founders Day, when we will also have our second annual PZC Zen Fest. It's going to be outside. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if you are some kind of performer, you are also welcome to perform at Zen Fest, and let me know if you're interested. It's going to be a fun afternoon. Something maybe a little less fun, but it can be fun. We have some Sangha workdays scheduled. Next one is on May 10th. And weather permitting, we'll be doing some stuff outside as well as inside. Please RSVP. And something more fun outside, we have community garden plots available. If you're interested, talk to Josh, and he will show you around. And you can grow some vegetables or fruits. What else? We do have our usual events, dinner and practice on Wednesday, and Westside Zen on Thursday nights, which is in Providence and also online. Speaking of our regular practice, you may not know that you actually don't need to take precepts to do an intro Dharma talk. Or to participate in a function on Wednesday night. So you could actually be head Dharma teacher, do side altar, etc. You just have to be kind of an ongoing practice. So if you're interested in that, please let us know, especially if you are a lady, because we always have, for whatever reason, we have so many female Zen teachers, but we're always here. We don't have as many women stepping up. So please step up. What else? Join us for refreshments in the lounge, and the gift shop will be open. And we are also looking for feedback on the gift shop. There's a QR code you can scan in the gift shop, and you can let us know what you would like to buy from the gift shop. So that's another fun thing. I think that's enough for now, so thank you for coming.
Everyone, Michael is an artist who made beautiful handmade cards that we sell.